this is Rose from the Pinly Made, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this fitted crochet top. I just want to explain briefly how this is made. So we make the body, which has two pieces, the front and the back piece, and then we seam the sides. Don't worry if you don't like seaming. This is the only seaming that's done in this tutorial. And there is I'm showing a demo as well of how you can seam the top. And we'll move on to the sleeves, which are worked in rows and rounds. So we do that for the two sides, and then we move on to the flare at the bottom of the top. So before you begin, please take measurement from your underarm to your waist. Okay, the point where it dips. Just follow the arrow. So this pattern uses paint box yarns, cotton DK, and metallic DK. Now this is a soft yet sturdy cotton yarn, and this is a super soft stretchy yarn that has some shimmer to it. It is made from cotton and polyamide, yeah, a blend of it. And the cotton decay is 100% cotton. You can get these yarns in 10 ball packs at an affordable price on lovecrafts.com. You see details in the description below. You also need a 3.5 millimeter hook and a tapestry needle. You can also use a 4 millimeter hook if you want a less snug fit. Just try to keep your tension even, not too tight and not too loose, just normal. We're going to start with a foundation half double crochet stitch. If you do not know how to do that, check the description box for a link to a tutorial on how to do the foundation half double crochet. Now you will follow the pattern and make as many FHDCs as required for the size you are making. So I'm going to be working with a size S for this pattern. So I'm going to FHDC 76. Once you're done with the FHDCs, now chain 1 and turn. So in our first stitch, we make a single crochet, and in the next stitch we will make an FPSC. So when you want to make the FPSC, which is the front post single crochet, go from under and go from the back to the front and out from the post of the half double crochet. Into the next stitch, single crochet. Into the next, around the post of the next half double FPSC. So when you want to make your FPSC, because sometimes it can be confusing, what you want to do is go from below this stitch you just worked into, go from the bottom here and come out at the other end and make your FPSC. single crochet in next FPSC around this one. So repeat this across. You're going to end with a, okay, we started with single crochet into the stitch. We're going to end with an FPSC on the last stitch. FPSC next. So FPSC, this is our last stitch. We will do FPSC round. So go in there and chain one and turn. Now we're going to do half double crochet into each stitch across.
How many half make one? How many half make one?
Now chain one and turn. We're going to be making row 4 now. We will repeat what we did on row 2, but we will do it in reverse. So now we will start with FPSC. Remember on row 2 we started with single crochet into the first stitch and then FPSC in the next, but this time we're going to start with a FPSC, which is front post single crochet. So just go from the back, sorry, from the front of the previous row and make your first FPSC, and in the next single crochet. This is the next stitch, so FPSC around that, single crochet, FPSC, and then single crochet into the last stitch, chain one, turn. So what we will be doing for the next 14 rows is repeating these 4 rows. So half double crochet across and then start with, because we started this row with FPSC, we're going to start the next row 6 with single crochet into the first stitch, and then we'll make another half double crochet for row 7, and then row 8 we will start with FPSC. So we'll be repeating these 4 rows until row 14. I'll make sure at row 14, and that will be about 2 points. So now we are up to row 14. At this point it will be about 2.5 inches. So we're going to increase. We'll start increasing. So we make 2 half double crochets into the first stitch, and then half double crochet across each stitch. And single crochet in the next stitch. FPSC, this is our next stitch, so FPSC, so at the end here, don't forget we have 2 stitches, 2 half double crochets, so we'll make 1 single crochet and then we make the FPSC around the last stitch. chain one and turn. Remember, if you are not sure, count your stitches. Now we will make half double crochets into each stitch. And in the last stitch here, make 2 half double crochets. So when we make 2 half double crochets into a stitch, we are gradually shaping our piece. So now we will repeat what we've done on row 18. On row 18, now we will begin with a single crochet. Remember, on the previous row we began with a FPSC. So when we're doing another post row, which is the FPSC rows, front post single crochet rows, we will start with a single crochet into the first stitch and then FPSC in the next. See, they are joined together, so you have to be mindful and so you know which stitch you're working into. FPSC and then single crochet. Repeat that. Now that we've done the repeats, this was our first increase right here, and then this is the second increase, and we will make we made even stitches across the next 10 rows. So from here 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Okay, across the next 11 rows we've made even stitches. Now we're going to increase again from this point. We're going to repeat what we've done on these rows. This is row 15, row 16, row 17. Okay, we're going to repeat that up here. So now we're going to be making an increase, half double crochet, okay. So everything we're going to be doing now is repetition of this part here, where we'll no longer be increasing, so 1 stitch into each of the stitches. You repeat this, you repeat it until you have the height of your measurement. So you're supposed to measure from your underarm to your waist. So the measurement you get, you should make the corresponding number of rows. So for this, I'm going, mine is 10 inches. So far we have here about 5.5 inches. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep repeating the rows, the single stitch rows, until I have up to 10 inches. So once you've increased the height of the inches that you have from the waist up to the underarm, we will be decreasing. And we'll decrease from this point only on the half double crochet rows. Now, half double crochet into the first stitch, but do not finish off. We will skip the next stitch and into the next, make another half double crochet. Now you finish off. So we're going to be decreasing across 3 stitches at a time, only at the beginning and at the end of the row. We have 3 stitches left on this row. We're going to decrease these 3 stitches to make them 1. So half double crochet, don't complete it, skip the next stitch and then go into the last, pull out a loop, okay, yarn over, go into the next stitch, skip the next stitch, yarn over, go into the last stitch, pull out a loop. So we've decreased across 2 stitches, pardon, across 3 stitches to make 1. So turn. I'll start with a single crochet into the first stitch, because in the last single crochet row I started with a front post single crochet. So in the next single crochet row I will be starting with a single crochet into the first stitch, front post single crochet. So from here on we will only be decreasing the half double crochet rows. The single crochet rows will remain the same, 1 stitch into each stitch across. So when you need to join yarn, you can do it in your favorite way that you usually join yarn. And okay, I just made a front post single crochet. So single crochet into the next, I will carry the tails. Now I'm going to drop them, because carrying them across this front post single crochet won't work quite well. So I'm going to drop them and I'll pick them back up when I'm making the half double crochet row. We have one last stitch here, so that's supposed to be a front post single crochet, but it won't make much difference because I'm working it at the end of the row. So decrease again. After you chain 1 turn, decrease in the first stitch, skip the next stitch, and in the third stitch half double crochet into each stitch until the last 3 stitches. So now we will carry this tail with us until it is covered up. So you repeat this Repeat these rows, the single crochet and the half double crochet. Repeat it until you have, okay. What you can do now is on the first row where you started the decrease, place a stitch marker there so that you know. Now that we're done making the two parts, the two panels, we will join. So from the bottom, starting from the bottom, you need maybe about maybe 20 to 21 inches of yarn to sew one part together. So pass the yarn, pass the needle again through the first stitch on the first row, the first and last stitches on the first row. Try to align your stitches. So we have a single crochet row, so I'm just going to go crisscross, half double crochet row, single crochet row, so we're just going to keep repeating this up to this point here where the just before the decrease, the row before the decrease row begins. Okay, once we're done with this, we want to pass the yarn again down to finish off. Now you snip the yarn. And you weave in the tail. So we have a neatly sewn edge. So you're just going to repeat the same thing for here. And repeat the same thing we've done for this side. Now that we're done joining the front and back pieces, I'm going to be making the sleeves now. So I'll be using a 4.5 millimeter hook and a 4 millimeter hook. This 4.5 is to make the slip stitches and the chain, while the 4 millimeter hook will use to make the stitches. So if you used a 4 millimeter hook for the body of your top, you can still use it. Also use it for the sleeve as well. So we're going to join this from here. The first HDC row begins from here. So from the last row that we stitched, that we joined, which is a single crochet row, we'll join, pass your hook through and pull out, and then into the next one. This is a single crochet row, and close it. Okay, you want to leave a considerable considerable length of tail, so that when you're weaving it in, it will be easier. You have enough. Into the next, slip stitch. So we have joined that. Now we're going to make slip stitches into each of these. We have 19 rows here, but we have 10 rows of half double crochets. So we're going to be making 2 slip stitches into each stitch. Let's say we're making 2 slip stitches into the half double crochet rows. That will give us 20 slip stitches. So in my this is the first half double crochet row. So I just do slip stitch at the bottom and at the top of the row. Okay. Make your slip stitches even, not too tight and not too loose, so that it can be easy to work into when we come back to the round. So we should have 20 slip stitches, but to be sure, I'm going to count. Slip stitches. This doesn't count, so this one right here where we joined. Now we want to chain. When you follow the written pattern, you will see a size guide for the armhole length that should be made. This is a size S, so the armhole length is about 7 inches. So 2, 3, 4. So for size S, I have chained a number of 33 chains. In the written pattern, you will find the right number to make for other sizes. Now we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch here. And in the next. It's easier on this row, it's easier to work your slip stitches through the half double crochet rows and through the single crochet rows. One, two, three, four, five, six, 18, 19 and 20. 20 slip stitches. Just to be sure, I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, 20. And I'm going to join into, I'm going to join into the space here. I'm going to join into this bottom slip stitch. Now I'm going to change this to a 4mm hook. Okay, now that we're done with that, we'll slip stitch through the front loop only. Front loop only. Okay, chain 2, and then double crochet into that same slip stitch in front loop only. Now we're working into front loops only of the slip stitches. We'll make 1 double crochet into each of these front loop stitches. This is I like to use this technique because it gives a smoother transition from the body of a crocheted clothing to the sleeves. And into our last slip stitch here. So just be patient as you work into these chains so that you don't skip any. So we'll keep repeating the double crochet into the front loop of the slip stitches. Then join into the first stitch. Snip the yarn and weave in this tail. So I want to place a stitch marker here just to let me know where my first stitch is on the row under the arm here. So now we were going to start in the 20th stitch, counting from here in the 20th stitch. Okay, we'll join my yarn. I'll pick up the yarn and chain 2. Now I will be making a double crochet into each of the stitches. Okay, that's the last stitch we made for the shoulder. Now we'll chain 2 and then slip stitch into the 20th stitch. That is, if you're counting from on here up to this point, you'll be slip stitching into the 20th stitch after working the shoulder. Slip stitch into the 20th stitch. Now slip stitch into the next stitch. All right, slip stitch into the next, chain 2, turn. Now into all the double crochets on the shoulder point here, we'll make another double crochet row, not the chain 2. Please skip the chain 2. We'll start from the first double crochet there. Now that my last stitch is done on row 3, okay, let's call it row 2, not counting this very first one here. So row 2, I've done the last stitch on row 2. Yeah, in the next stitch, in the next open stitch, remember we started from here on the 20th stitch, counting from the underarm up 20th stitch. Now in the next stitch we will make a slip stitch, join, and in the next stitch as well. So we're slip stitching at the end of the row. On row 2 we'll slip stitch into 2 stitches. Okay, now chain 2 and turn. Do that again. This is the last stitch on row 2 that I have made. Now the next stitch, which is the 19th stitch if you're counting from the underarm up. We started from the 20th, so in the 19th stitch, slip stitch, and then in the next one, which is the 18th, I'll also slip stitch, and then after the second slip stitch, chain 2 and turn. Now we'll continue making double crochet across in the first stitch, and in the next. And then one double crochet into the last stitch. As I said earlier, you may want to work with stitch markers. You can put them at the beginning and the end of the stitches, just to guide you on where to work in next. So here we are. We already made a slip stitch into the 20th stitch and 19th stitch on the opposite side. So there was a slip stitch in the 20th and in the 19th. So we're going to slip stitch in the next one, in the next free stitch. Okay, there is nothing in here. Slip stitch, and then in the next slip stitch. Okay, chain 2, turn. You're going to have this gaping, this space here once you are doing the slip stitches. That's totally fine. I mean, it's part of the design aesthetic. So we'll repeat again, double crochet into the first double crochet and into each of the double crochets across. Now we're doing stitch on row 4. Okay, now we're going to slip stitch into this already. So in the next free stitch, slip stitch, and in the next slip stitch and chain 2, turn. Now on to row 5. We're in the last stitch on row 5. Okay, in the next free stitch, slip stitch, and in the next slip stitch. How do you know which stitch you already slip stitched into? Okay, like I said, use your stitch markers. You can also place your stitch marker right into the last stitch where you slip stitched on the previous row. Another way is to check out for the chain 2. On the chain 2, you will see where it's coming out from. So mine is coming out right from here, so I know that that's where I made the last slip stitch. So I'm just going to leave that part and then go to the next 2 stitches and make my slip stitches in there. Chain 2, turn. And I'll just repeat what I've done. I'll repeat this. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're on row 6 now, so I'll repeat this for another 3 rows. I'm going to finish off row 9 with the slip stitches. Okay, this time, because we're ending the row, I'm making only 1 slip stitch. We're not working back from on here, so slip stitch into the 1 slip stitch there. Row 9, finish up with a slip stitch. This time only 1, because I'm not going to be turning to work back. So weave this tail in and place a stitch marker into this point. Alright, now from the beginning of the stitch, the first stitch from the underarm, join your yarn, chain 2, Now double crochet into each stitch. Okay, now we're also going to make one stitch into this stitch right here where we slip stitched on this at this point. So one double crochet into that stitch, and now we climb up, double crochet into the first stitch, or rather the last stitch on row 9. Okay, so okay, I haven't woven this still, but this is where we made the slip stitch on the last stitch on row 9. So I've gone ahead to work a stitch into that same place, and now I will continue to make stitches into the last stitch that I made on row 9. So now it will be the first stitch. So basically what we're going to be doing now is working around the shoulder that we've completed. So we have 11 rows now, counting the first 2 rounds we made plus the 9 rows we just made. Gives us 11 rows. This applies to all the sizes. So after 11th row, we will start working in rounds, and we will just keep turning. At the end of every round, we chain 2 and turn. To make this easy for you, try and weave in your tails so you don't struggle like I am doing. Okay, so we continue making the double crochets all around. Now I'm on the last stitch on the row 9 for the shoulder. I've worked from the underarm up to this point. So into the, okay, we have our slip stitch here and then the chain 2. So double crochet into that stitch where we have the slip stitch and chain 2, and double crochet into the remaining stitches. And our last double crochet will be into the very place we started, where we joined our yarn and made the chain 2. So double crochet in there, join to the first stitch, chain 2, turn. So from here on, we're going to be repeating this chain 2, double crochet around, join to the first stitch, chain 2 and turn. And slip stitch, the last. Everything we've done here, we're going to repeat on here, on the other side of the sleeve. So and weaving your tail and repeat from on here everything we've done for the other arm. Well, as for the front and back, you get to decide where you want front facing and back facing to be, because it's basically the same thing. Yeah, 20th stitch. So once we're done making the sleeves, we're going to make the bottom half of the top. So what you should first do is count your stitches, or rather identify the first stitch on the front panel and the last stitch on the back panel, and mark with a stitch marker on each side. So we're minusing one from what we have here. We're minusing two, okay, two from the first stitch, two from the last stitch. So we should have 74 here, and we're going to be joining the two stitches at the sides, at the sides here. So we're going to make single crochet. We will do a single crochet decrease, and then single crochet into the remaining stitches up to the other side. We're going to join so continue to the back to make one single crochet into each stitch. So once you've joined into the last stitch, you chain 2 and turn. Now these stitches have been marked out for increases, so depending on your size you will have a different number of stitches to skip before you make the increase. All that will be in the written pattern. So now I'm going to start. So whatever applies here also applies to this part as well, and we'll also be making increase into the decrease at the sides, So I'm going to start with just double crochet. So for this I'm going to be making double crochets into 15 stitches, and then in the 16th I will be making the increase. And now into the 16th I make 5 double crochets. Alright, so I'm just going to repeat that. Making 15 stitches. In the 16th I will make a 5 double crochet increase. However, for the middle here, if you notice, it's shorter because that's the middle part. So here I'm just going to be working singles in 10 stitches and increase 15 stitches in the 16th increase. So I'm just going to continue that, and at the side here I will make 5 double crochet increase into the side stitch. That's the single crochet decrease. So everything I've done here I'm going to repeat on this other side. And in the last stitch, 5 double crochets. Join to the first stitch. Chain 2 and turn. So from here on we will be making double crochet in the first 2 stitches, and in the middle stitch of the chain 5 you make another 5 the double crochet. And then double crochet, single double crochet into each stitch up to the next 5 double crochet increase. And then when you work up to this point, in the middle stitch of the 5 double crochet, make another 5 double crochet. Double crochet in the middle stitch of the 5 double crochet, make another 5 double crochet. So that's what we're going to be repeating all around. So at the end of round 3, the last round for increase, now we begin to work 1 stitch into each stitch around. So 1 double crochet into each of the stitches around. At the end of the round, you chain 2 and turn. So for this pattern, I've made it up to 11 rounds, and you can do that as well. But if you want it to be longer, then just keep repeating round 4 and beyond till you have the desired length that you want. So I'm going to be leaving this at row 11. It's long enough for size S, and we'll snip off the yarn. So I'm weaving your tails. Remember, this pattern is written for sizes XS to 4XL. So you can find that everything you need, all the details are in the description box. You'll see links to them. Okay, so thank you for joining me on this tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy making your top and wearing it. All right, I will see you in my next tutorial, and if you have any questions, anything you don't understand, let me know in the comments, and I'll get back to you on them. Thank you once again for joining me on this tutorial, and I'll see you in my next one. God bless you.